Hello and welcome to another Wargame Red Dragon video with me, Bubblebox, and today we're continuing with the Bubble and Silver and Vulcan, of course, do decks series with the Swedish national deck. Please do check out Vulcan's channel at Vulcan HD Gaming, link in the description below. Hi guys.
Hello.
Hello.
So I'm quite looking forward to the Swedish deck and the Danish deck afterwards. Who wants to kick off with the logistics then? Vulcan?
Sure thing. So to start, I have the STR IPBV 90 for my armored command. Now, normally I wouldn't take armed command, and I know you pick up on this a lot, Bubble, but in this case, I think this is possibly one of the best APCs in the game, and it does have like incredible power. So I just, well, not power so much, but more the armor is just like incredibly good for this particular vehicle. So that's why I have this one. I think it can protect itself reasonably well against the infantry with its machine gun. And it doesn't actually make use of the autocannon on it. Like you can see the autocannon, but it's not actually an autocannon. So that kind of catches people out. It just caught me out then. But definitely a good command unit to secure sectors with. Then I have the infantry. I have the stabs group in the HKP 3C. I like to have my versatile infantry command unit in a helicopter so that I can get it to places that would otherwise be inaccessible. And then I have an FOB, and I have the P93 Scania trucks for my supply.
Cool.
All right.
Excellent. Silver?
I got, instead of the 90, I actually got the STRIPV 3021, and the reason why is, first off, this is amphibious, whereas the other wasn't, so it can cross rivers. But second is that it has the autocannon that I like, and not the machine gun, so it can defend itself against helicopters.
Okay, cool.
That was my reason. I also did get the infantry as well, and the helicopter as well, for a bit more versatility.
Yeah. I got the infantry exactly the same as Vulcan in the same vehicle as well, the chopper. I got the armored car CV as well. I was tossing up between that one and the tank one. Really, I don't think there's a lot of difference. You just go for the armor, or you go for kind of the amphibious ability, I guess. But yeah, they're both quite good, I think. Well, both very good, in fact, for their price. And then I got the amphibial bills for my logistics, just because they can go across water. They're a bit shitty in that they don't carry hardly any logistics, but I just got them for a bit of amphibious ability there. And I got the choppers as well for my last logistic spot, as well as the fob, of course.
Right. I got the Scania as the trucks for my choice.
Yeah. So moving on for the infantry. Silver, do you want to go first on the infantry?
Sure. First off, I got the Pansarkis in STRF 9040 with those autocannon. I got the regular instead of the 90s because I didn't actually see much difference other than the 90s getting a better gun.
Yeah. Okay. And what else?
I also got the PVGRP RBS 56 with those incredible AP power rockets.
Yeah, I got those as well in the STRFs as well.
Yep.
Yep. Cool. Excellent. And
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff in the STRF.
yeah, me too.
I also got the LV GRPs RBS 90s with those incredible anti-aircraft range in STRF 9040s.
Cool.
And then finally, I got two squads of Kustjägers in HKP-4C helicopters for a bit of aerial versatility.
All right. Cool. What about you then, Vulcan? Anything to say about that?
I have the LVGRP RBS 90s, of course, best infrared AA in the game in my opinion, mainly because of their 2,800 meter range. I have some Panzerskite 90s in the STRF 9040, and the reason I have those instead of the normal ones is because I love that rate of fire that they have. It's incredibly powerful for the like towns.
Yep.
Then I have a squad or a card of Hemvansmen, the reserve infantry, one of the strongest infantry, reserve infantry cards in the game. They do kind of get let down by the 10-point vehicle that they come in, but still a very good squad with 15 strength there, incredibly good militia for securing certain areas on the map. And then I have two cards of the Kustjägers. Actually, one of them's a Kustjäger 90 and one's the normal Kustjägers, and they're both in HKP 3Cs. And the reason I've got one of each is because the Kustjäger 90s have a better like AT weapon, in my opinion, but they have a worse like main gun. So like the normal Kustjägers have the 80% accuracy and 20% stabilizer on their assault rifle, which is incredibly powerful for defensive, whereas the Kustjäger 90s are better for attacking with the AK-5.
Okay, wow. That's deep thinking between those two, I must say. Wow, I didn't notice all that stuff. But yeah, cool. Is that all your infantry?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I've got the Kustjäger 90s, in fact. I just got them in choppers as my kind of fast deployment squads if I need them anywhere around and about the place. Of course, I got the man-pads, the RBS 90s with the 2,800 meter range that you mentioned. And after that, I got some RBS 56 anti-tank weapons, which are quite expensive, I guess, at 30, but they're quite decent. They've got a big AP power if they manage to hit, and they've got a decent accuracy of 50% as well.
Yeah. Tell you what I don't really like about those is their short range for an HGM. It's like 2,275 meters, which is still like a reasonable range. But I find that it's very easy for these squads to get picked off because they engage in like main gun range of a tank, for example.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
So they do always get hit before, you know, they get a shot off, basically.
Yeah, I see. Well, I'll give them a go and see what happens in that department. Now, as my final infantry, my main rifle squad, I actually went again, as I always do, for the 15 squad Norlandsjagers, Jagares, or however you pronounce that. One set in very cheap trucks, 5-point TGB 13s, just for cheapness of getting these things out in large numbers if I need them, and one set in the amphibial bills, just for some, in case I need to put them across rivers or lakes or anything like that. And that's it. That's all my infantry. So moving on to the support. What have you got for your support, Vulcan?
So to begin with, I have two cards of the RBS 67 Hawks. Now, these are really good because they're really cheap. They're only 40 points. And they have the 3,850 meter range, which is really, really great. They have 9 HE power as well. Now, the thing they lack in is accuracy. So I do have both of the cards hardened so that I get a bit of an extra accuracy boost on them, basically. Now, the thing that you can do is, because you do get a lot of them, is get them slightly upgraded, which is why I've done that. And then to follow up on that, I have the LV KV90. Again, another radar unit, which is something that I don't particularly like about the Swedish, is that they rely a lot on their radar.
Like Germany.
Yeah, and it doesn't particularly matter because they're cheap units, but it's still something that definitely can catch you out if you aren't paying attention to your anti-air. So anyway, in this case, the LVKV90 is radar, but it's definitely still a good unit. 2,800 meters versus helicopters, definitely easy to catch them out. 2,625 meters against airplanes and 60% accuracy. So this thing doesn't miss very often, especially with its rate of fire, 391 rounds per minute, with the 3 AP power and 1.5 HE power. Really, really strong. Not going to take many hits to actually shoot something down. So a very strong unit. Does have some decent armor as well and isn't too slow. So a good all-round anti-air unit.
Yeah, and good with that AP power as well for ground units as well, as long as you can avoid their seaplanes, of course.
Yeah, it does have that the ground support capability as well. So moving on, I've got the LV RBV 701. This is just an APC with the infrared on it. has the 2,625 meter range again, which is reasonable for infrared. 45% accuracy. I have these hardened so that gets upgraded a little bit because otherwise they would be a little bit useless, but you still get a lot of them, so definitely worth doing. Along with the previous radar on the deck, you do have a lot of anti-air to work with. And then to finally follow up, I have the Amos mortar carrier. One of the most interesting Swedish prototype units, has the really nice rate of fire, good overall mortar with the 5 HE power, low dispersion, kind of a short range, which can be annoying. But the one thing that makes it really cool is its ability to fire at ground units with its heat, like dual cannon. Has 19 rounds per minute, 14 AP power. So very good at taking out like APCs very quickly or anything that really threatens it. So can be moved forwards for a more supporting role if necessary. Yeah, that's my support units.
Yeah, cool. And that AP power once again coming into play. What about you, Silver?
I got also the LVKV90. I think it's kind of a must. It also gives you a bit of experience turning on and off your radar guns, especially if you've played West Germany with all their radar guns as well. You kind of get the experience already for that. But I also got the Rover RBS 90, and the reason why is that they're 35 points, but they have twin RBS 90s on the back of them. That means that they can fire 2 missiles fairly rapidly, one after the other, with a 55% accuracy and 2,800 meter range against helicopters. So I thought this was a good infrared supplement over the APC that Vulcan has.
Sure.
And then also, I don't know what you guys are going to think of this. I've also got the LVKV FM43 flat guns, basically. 10 points.
I think it's a good choice.
Yeah, 10 points each. They've got fairly decent range against helicopters. I mean, yeah, the accuracy's low, but with 10 points, you can bring in quite a bit of them, and they're very good at kind of providing a screening shield and a deterrent against helicopters, and a bit of ground support as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really blame you for bringing them in. They are useful in certain situations. They're good for their ground support as well. So 40mm rounds is always good for killing infantry very quickly.
Yeah. I also did get the Amos. I really love how they fire just 2 mortar rounds every time they fire. A group of these things is just a bunch of mortars landing simultaneously, which is basically simultaneous artillery. I forget exactly what it's called, but it's a really good tactic. And then finally, I actually got some artillery, the Beacon 1C. Basically, it was between that, the 1C or the 1A, and this one had a lot better, a smaller dispersion rate, so this would be a precision artillery, I guess, from me.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, well, I got that as well, the Beacon 1C, and of course I got the Amos for all the reasons already said. My AA is a little bit different than you two guys. I got the Hawks, one set. I only got one set at hardened. At trained. No, I got them at hardened, sorry, so I got 8 of them, but I only got one set, so I might be a little bit short there, but you know what I feel like about radar, having to micro it on and off all the time. So I got the Rover RBS 90s as my main kind of anti-helicopter weaponry to bring in at the start of the game as well, because I find they are really effective, because as you say, they do fire really fast, whether it's because they fire 2 at a time or whether they just fire one after the other really fast, I'm not sure, but they do fire really, really fast. And then I got, just to supplement everything, I got those little 10-point LVKVs as well. So that's my support. So a nice mixture of AA there between 3 of us.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So moving on to the tanks. And I think Vulcan, I think you're kicking off with this one.
No, it's me.
Well, go on then.
Okay. I got the STRV121, which basically, looking at the chassis, is a Leopard 2 variant, but very good stats already. And what I like about the Swedish is they can bring in 2 stacks of these, so I brought in 2 stacks of hardened, so I've got 6 hardened of these tanks. I then got the STRV-103D, which I think is a very interesting looking tank design. It doesn't really look like a tank, it looks like a mobile gun to me with a sort of metal picket fence in the front of the turret.
The reason it has that picket fence thing is because you tie foliage to it. The whole idea of that chassis is that you bury it. They are like the primary defensive tanks of the Swedish army.
And what is that? CCTV camera or something for from or what?
Yeah, it would be like optics.
Right.
Okay, so they basically bury these into the ground and then...
Yeah, into like dense forest and stuff, and they're very well hidden.
And I can see that fence being very good at kind of just deterring like RPGs or some kind of shell might detonate it prematurely if I hit that first.
Except their stealth in this game is actually more. Maybe they should have increased the stealth a lot.
No, the thing that they get is the small size.
Okay, yes.
So they are harder to hit.
Yeah.
Rather than the stealth, like compared to other tanks, that is a big bonus of the STRVs.
Okay, cool. Anything else, Silver?
Yeah, I got the STRV-105 because it has pretty decent front armor for 55 points, but also has a very accurate gun. A very scary accurate gun for this price.
Yeah, not bad. 16 AP. Yeah, cool. Is that it?
That's it for my tanks.
Anything different than that, Vulcan?
Mine's the same, except from I have a card of STRV 102Rs as well. Now, the thing about the STRV like 105 and the 102 is literally their accuracy for their price is just insane. Like 70% accuracy for 55 points cannot be understated, especially with 10 front armor, and they're still fast. They're like 60 km/h speed. So these things are like just insane, like incredibly good money, like value for money, and they're of course a prototype unit because of that. Now the STRV 102R is basically like a cheap downgrade of that. It still maintains like a decent accuracy, but it does severely lack from like a lack of the stabilizer. But still a good value for money for 35 points. And the reason I've got it is because it's one of those sort of supporting tanks that you would move with infantry, whereas the STRV 105 is something that you would more or less use on its own because it's something to use to like snipe units in particular.
It looks a lot like the Centurion chassis.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yep. I have actually got exactly the same as Silveraptor, four slots with exactly the same tanks, so I don't really need to talk too much about them. I've even got the SDRVs at hardened as well. I think there's not a big variety of tanks, to be fair, for the Swedish. They kind of pick themselves almost. Yeah, but decent tanks. Moving on.
Oh yeah, that's a good point actually, just before we move on, is I have all of my cards hardened except from the STRV 121 because I only have one card.
Yep, I've got all of mine. I think I've got all mine hardened. Yep, all of mine are hardened as well.
It's mainly because of their availability that you can get away with that. You're not normally going to be bringing in more than 20 tanks in a battle. So
yeah, all mine are the same, hardened. So moving on to the Reconnaissance. I think Vulcan, you are first this time. What have you got? I've got quite a few in mine.
I have all 5 cards filled in the recon. I have the HK-P6A. I think it's just worth having a 40-point recon helicopter with very good optics. It's cheap and disposable, so definitely worth having. It's also pretty nippy. Turns around pretty fast. It's a Kiowa basically, I think it is. But anyway, the other units I have is the EPBB-90 with the exceptional recon. Now, this thing again, it only has the machine gun, which is kind of lame, but the exceptional recon, incredibly good. And for 55 points, you can get 2 cards of these, and they will spot more or less anything on the ground for you, unless it's blocked by line of sight. So very, very good units.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a machine gun, does it?
No, well, it's the same thing as the command unit. It doesn't actually make use of the main gun. It doesn't fire out of the main gun. It'll
Right.
just have like a coaxial machine gun.
Okay.
Then the other thing is I have the Volkskamjägers, which are the recon infantry. Very good recon, very good for supporting like infantry pushes and for sitting in towns and making sure that nothing's sneaking up on you. Just great for keeping an eye on the battlefield alongside your normal infantry. And I actually have two cards of these, one in the PATGBXA 180 and one in the TGB 13. And the reason one of them's in the TGB 13 is because I actually ran out of the other APCs to put them in. So yeah, I was kind of forced to put them in the cheap APCs instead.
Okay. And you've got one more card?
Well, I've got two cards of the
Right.
PBVs and two cards of the Volkskamjägers.
Okay, cool. What about you then, Silver? Anything different than
I
that?
I've got pretty much the same thing, except I have both of them, both the Volkskamjägers and the 180 trucks because, well, they're kind of better than the amphibials because they have a gun on them and move faster in the water. I also think that the Recon also make kind of very good assaulting village infantry because their accuracy is the same as the stabilizer, so you could just keep them moving and they won't really lose effectiveness that much.
Yeah, definitely good for accompanying like infantry, like your standard infantry, basically.
Yeah.
Yep, cool. Well, I got the chopper as well, same as as you guys. I got the EPBV 3022, the downgrade from the one you've got, Vulcan, because it's cheaper, really, more than anything else. Just as a bit of a spotter, only good optics.
And it's got an autocannon.
It's got an autocannon, which hopefully it won't have to use, but yeah, it's just a bit of a spotter, really, more than anything else. I went for the cheaper version. Then I've got two cards, the Volkskamjägers, one in a chopper, just for maneuverability around the map, and one I've just very quickly spotted and swapped out, and I've got them in the PATGBs now for their amphibious use there as well. That's all my recon. Not bad recon. So moving on to the not so good vehicles. Who's kicking off with this?
I guess me.
Go on then.
I started off with the IKV 105s. These are amphibious. That I've taken note because the crappy armor they have, they probably did that so they can float across rivers.
Yeah.
And they've got a pretty decent supporting gun with 55% accuracy, so I got stacked up hardened for these.
Okay. Is that it?
I also got the anti-tank truck, which is, as Vulcan said, in range of tanks. So I don't know how effective this is going to be, but I'll still try it out.
Okay, and that's all your units, yeah?
No, I actually do have recoilless rifles on trucks.
Right. Okay.
My vehicles are actually very similar. So the vehicles of the Swedish are like almost not worth having, but the reason I have them is because
You've got nothing else to
they're
spend the points on.
better than anything else I could spend the points on. So I have the IKV 105s. They're basically like cavalry tanks with no armor, and they're decent. They can catch people out, but it's not something I would normally bring in. I've just got them there in case I run out of tanks, which probably isn't going to happen. Then I have a card of the PVRBV 551s, and the reason I have these is because they have the long range. They have the 2,625 meter ATGM range, which is pretty standard, but 60% accuracy, 20 AP power, can be decent in certain situations if you need them, and I've got them as hardened for the extra accuracy bonus. But again, not really something that I think I'll bring in. But I do have a card of the PVTGB 9031 M84s because
Like me.
they are like an upgrade of the M77 and they cost the same. But the reason they're actually reasonably good is because of their 3 HE power. So that's something that I might consider using them for, is bringing them in and firing on infantry out of range of their AT weapons. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's probably the most likely vehicle out of the vehicle tab that I'm actually going to bring in, which is rather interesting.
Yeah, and I don't need to talk too much about them because I've got exactly the same as Vulcan and the hardened ones as well. So yeah, exactly the same, and I'll say that the final 2 slots for the vehicles were the last 2 slots I filled on this deck because I couldn't find anything else. But the PV RBV 551s do look quite decent for 45 points with their 60% accuracy. So and their range, like you say, they could be decent for the ITOs.
Yeah, they're a good value for money. So they might come in handy.
Yeah. So the next section shouldn't take too long. The helicopters. Has anyone got it?
I got one section.
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah, I got one as well.
Just useful to have like a helicopter to catch out tanks from side armor, I guess.
Yeah, it's only cost 1 point for the slot, so yeah, you got to have that, I suppose. So let's move on to something a bit more interesting flying wise, the aircraft. Who's going to kick off with this one then?
Why don't you lead this one, Bubble?
Me? I never lead.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh God. Okay. I know nothing about the aircraft. I've got the Gripen first of all, the JAS 39 Gripen. Mainly, this is my main kind of anti sort of air superiority fighter. You get 3 of them as well at trained. Not brilliant at trained, but you get 3 of them. So I could bring like 2 out and then have 1 spare in case one gets shot down, I guess.
They still have AMRAAM missiles, so they're
Oh yeah, they're not terrible. They're pretty decent. I mean, there are 160 points though, so they should be decent.
Yeah.
Then I've got the AJS 37 Viggen. Mainly I got this because I wanted a cluster bomber.
Yes.
So I got this one as my main cluster bomber. And I got the SK-60B. This was my final aircraft choice, actually, although I've got 4. This was the 3rd in the slots. Got this as kind of an afterthought, really. It's got 10 HE power, but it's got to fly in somewhere with absolutely no anti-air at all, or it's just going to get shot down, basically, with its speed and everything. And then my final plane is the AJ-37 Viggen as my anti-tank aircraft. That's it. That's all my aircraft. What do you think about that then?
Mine is pretty similar, actually. I have the Gripens. Now, the reason I have them is because that is the best air superiority fighter that the Swedish can get. They have the AMRAAM missiles, fire and forget, so yeah, that's what makes them so expensive.
Cool.
Then I have a card of the SK-60Bs. Now these things are incredibly interesting. They're only 60 points, but those 10 HE power rockets can be fire positioned onto like infantry, as well as like tanks and so on when they go in like invisible, like when they disappear off the radar. You can still fire position these, which is what makes them so great, because normally you wouldn't be able to fire position a missile, but with these you can. So that's what makes them useful.
Yeah, I guess if you know there's some really high point infantry sitting in a building, you wouldn't mind even suiciding it. I don't know, a bunch of Spetsnaz sitting somewhere or something.
Yeah, most people would use these to kill infantry over tanks. And they're fire and forget missiles. So you fire them, they fly away. And
I don't think these planes can kill tanks because they only have 10 HE power.
They still do damage. So you know, it can be worth doing.
They're like laser guided missiles, I would say, with this version of Zero.
Then to follow up, I have the A32A Lanson for some napalm. Kind of a terrible napalm bomber, but just thought I wanted some napalm.
I like it has 3 napalm bombs.
Yeah, it has 3, but the 0 ECM really lets it down. Like if it was faster, it wouldn't matter, but it's pretty slow as well.
I thought about this one, but even the bombs aren't that big, so yeah, I passed on it in the end.
Yeah, and then I do have one card of the AJS 37 Biggins, and the reason these are such good cluster bombers is because they have 10 AP power, and that is incredible. Like most cluster bombers, I think, have like way less than
6 AP, I think.
Like yeah, about 6 AP is the norm, and if you land 4 10 AP power cluster bombs on top of a tank, it does not stand a chance. So incredibly good, one of the best cluster bombers in the game, and that's why it costs so much. It's 130 points. It does have 30% ECM and 900 kilometer per hour speed as well. So one thing that really makes up for the lack of a decent air force from the Swedish.
Cool. And Vulcan. Sorry, and Silver.
I got the Lansons for the napalm. I got the Biggin for the cluster bombing, the Gripen for the air superiority, and the SK-60B because it's just a unique aircraft in the game.
Okay.
So basically the same.
Cool. So it's time, I guess. If you haven't got anything else to say about the aircraft, it's time to pick your favourite unit.
Oh dear.
Yeah, oh dear, exactly. Has anyone got one, first of all?
I could start us off, I guess.
Go on then, I'm trying to pick here.
I'm going to say the STRB-105. Now, I think this is such a dark horse in this deck. I've been caught out by it numerous times. Like, the 55.70% accuracy is just incredible. And I think that this thing has the power to really catch people out.
Ironic you don't have this in your deck.
Oh, he does have this in his deck.
I do have it in my deck.
Oh, I thought he had the 102R.
I think
I
he
have
has
both.
both, yeah.
Ah, okay.
What about you then, Silver?
Okay.
What have you got for your amazing vehicle or whatever?
I really like the Amos. Just the double mortar shots at a time. I really love that capability.
Yeah.
Just massive firepower landing at the same time, kind of really catching people out when they're not expecting mortars.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the Amos. I almost picked the Amos, but as you've picked it, I'm going for a cheap kind of unit. I'm going for the Rover RBS 90 because I've used these so many times and they just fire so fast, or double shots. And they're fast as well. You can bring them in at the start of the game with a load of infantry. They'll keep up with the infantry to the front line at the start of a game and shoot down any helicopters that appear. They're just a really nice unit to have. They are a bit squishy, especially to artillery. And if the enemy's got lots and lots of artillery, you will lose these because they'll be near the front line. But they're just a decent unit, even though they look a bit silly stuck on the back of a Jeep or Land Rover. And that's my favourite unit. So yeah, that's about it then, isn't it, for the Swedish? Has anyone got anything final words about the Swedish?
I think they have the possibility to be quite strong on their own, but the one thing that I think they definitely lack is like a decent air force and decent helicopters, and that can really hold them back, especially considering their like primary infantry comes in helicopters, and you don't have like any infrared helicopters to really support that, and that can really put you back at the start of a game.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks very much, guys, for doing this video. I hope you enjoyed doing it. I hope you enjoyed it watching it as well. Please do check out Vulcan's channel, Vulcan HD Gaming, link in the description below. Thanks for watching again. Please do comment and subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see you in the next one.